On April 17th, 2015, my husband and our two children, Ashlyn, who was 3, and Noah, who was 5, were in a near-fatal car accident. The sedan that they were in was T-boned by a dump truck carrying gravel at high speed, and it hit on my daughter and my husband's side of the vehicle. So my daughter sustained a severe traumatic brain injury with bleeding and swelling of the brain and skull fractures from ear to ear, and cracked pelvis and fractured jaw and 3 broken ribs. And she was in a coma, a medically induced coma, for 11 days and hospitalized for a total of 50 days because she had extensive rehabilitation services inpatient after she was woken up from her coma. When the accident happened, it was my husband and our 2 children who were in the car. My daughter was 3 and my son was 5. I wasn't in the car, but I was 37 weeks pregnant with our 3rd child at the time. And my husband, who's in the Army National Guard, was scheduled to deploy just a few weeks after this incident occurred. So needless to say, the situation was chaotic and challenging on so many levels. So just the experience of going through this time where you've lost complete control of your life, like every single aspect of your life is now out of your control, was so hard. And just to see your young child go through such a painful experience and not knowing what the outcome was going to be, because doctors can't look at brain scans and say, this is what their abilities or inabilities are going to be after this is said and done. It's just not how it works. We all know brain injuries are unique and not fully understood. So the experience of the not knowing as well was very hard. We were just in this state where we had to hope and pray for the best outcome for Ashlyn and for our whole family, because we all went through such a crisis and a tragedy, even though, thank God nobody died. But it was in a way a tragedy and a loss for all of us, what happened. So I'm just thankful that she pulled through the way that she did. I know it could have been so much worse. I've seen other TBI cases that have not had such a positive outcome. I'm very grateful. In the beginning, it was almost as if I was just going through the motions, just trying, in survival mode, really. In survival mode, just being the parent and the spouse I had to be, because I was the only one who wasn't in the car. I was the only one who wasn't injured and had to deal with the immediate aftermath and the decision making. So for a while, I was going through the motions, just trying to do everything I could to be the sole person in our family taking care of business when it needed to happen. We went through many months of, a few years actually, of rehabilitation therapies. So when she was at the hospital directly after the accident, she was there 50 days, and all but 11 of those days were spent in rehab doing speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. And we continued all of that outpatient for, about 2 years afterwards. And I feel like because of all of those therapies and the success she had with her therapists, and then moving those skills and practices into our home as well, that has made her who she is today, with her peers in kindergarten doing well. After Ashlyn's accident and injuries, I feel like I've had to be a lot more cognizant of some challenges she may have, differences she may have. I do know that with the brain injury comes brain fatigue, more tiredness, headaches. Sometimes she can be overwhelmed by stimulation. We know that sometimes if she's experiencing difficulty or getting overwhelmed, we may need to change her environment, bring her to a quieter, less bright place. Picking our battles with Ashlyn is something that we have to do not only because of the brain injury, but because of her personality, which was there before the injury and is there still now. She's very feisty. She's a fierce little girl. She's very opinionated and strong-willed. So I feel like that's something that we kind of had the hang of before. Maybe we need to do it a little more so now too. But yeah, there are definitely things we need to just let go and move on in order for everyone to be calm and happy and successful in parenting and being a kid. It's sometimes hard to think about the purpose behind a behavior when you are parenting 3 kids. But when it comes to Ashlyn and her behaviors, it is good, we found, to sometimes stop and think, okay, is she overwhelmed? Did she get enough sleep? Is this a conducive environment for her and what we expect of her right now? So those are some questions that I sometimes ask myself as a mother when she's being difficult or something is a challenge for her and we're not seeing eye to eye or she's not listening. And if I can figure out what that is and alleviate that before I put any expectations on her, that's a good thing. Since Ashlyn's injury, one of the ways that we identify solutions is through the therapists and doctors that we've worked so closely with. She has been in therapies for 2 years, over 2 years, and she continues having follow-up appointments at the hospital where she was post-injury. So we have a really excellent team of people who are knowledgeable about her injuries and the long-term effects in ways that families can cope. So I've stayed in communication with them very closely. With Ashlyn, she's very fierce, she's very opinionated and strong-willed, so we have to give her choices. If we don't give her choices, she gets very frustrated and won't do what you want her to do. So if she feels in control, then we have a better chance of success for whatever it is we want to happen. Routine is very important. In our family, every day, at least during the week, Monday through Friday, pretty much looks the same, except for on activity days, which only happen 1 or 2 days a week. Things may vary a little, but in the morning, it's always the same. It's predictable. She knows what to expect, so we don't, in terms of schedule, we don't have a lot of conflict with her because we do keep it regular. In the evening, the bedtime routine is always the same, and I think that has really helped her with her expectations and helped her meet our expectations of her without a battle. So Ashlyn's behavior, she can be impulsive and she can lash out sometimes if she doesn't like what's going on or she doesn't want to do what you're telling her to do. Sometimes she'll start yelling and screaming, and sometimes she'll even hit. That has happened. I feel like it's really up to us as her parents and caregivers, whoever she's with at the time, to be the calm when she's not, and just sort of imitate to her the way that we want her to be, and then hopefully she mirrors that and comes back down from that high place she's on. Or she's at. I would say she doesn't always understand her behavior and how it's sometimes inappropriate. To become more aware of her behavior, we're trying to be the way we want her to be so that she mirrors us. If you want them to act a certain way, you need to act that way, and then they will hopefully imitate that. She has been on an IEP plan ever since the accident happened, ever since she started school. And her IEP is pretty extensive. So it includes the physical things, which is a hearing and vision loss that she has due to her injuries. But it also includes behavioral issues and cognitive issues that she has. So speech is another thing that's on her IEP. She's always sort of struggled with speech, even prior to the accident, but traumatic brain injuries exacerbate that speech problem, so it became even worse. She does have some social behaviors that maybe aren't as up to par as her peers. She needs to be taught how to interact socially and appropriately with kids sometimes. So that's part of her IEP as well. And cognitively, I feel like we are guessing that she's going to have cognitive issues because of the brain injury, but we're just at the beginning of being able to know for sure because she just started kindergarten. And in kindergarten, you learn literacy, reading and writing and letter recognition. We know that she is a little behind with letter recognition, but because she's just started learning how to read and write, I don't feel like we fully know the extent of what the injury has caused in terms of that. The school's been amazing. I love that we have a very well-trained, caring group of teachers who are on her IEP plan. And they're very communicative with us about Ashlyn's goals that they're setting, what they see as needs, and if she's meeting her goals. We have regular meetings between her IEP team and us as parents where we can really discuss the plan. And I feel very comfortable with it. I'm pleased with how they've approached her issues in terms of school. They've adapted her learning environment to eliminate obstacles in order for her to learn well. Another thing they've done, because she has the slight vision loss due to the brain injury, is she has preferred seating. So they always sit her near the front. They sit her on a certain side based on how she can see the best. And they've really worked with us to ensure that she is learning just like the rest of her peers despite these challenges that she has. She has so many obstacles to overcome before she can even get to the point of learning. So her peers are starting here, she's starting here, and she has to jump these hurdles just to get to the point of learning. So I've been really pleased with her team at school who has listened to me communicate these concerns and have found solutions. I wrote her teacher a 3-page letter that sort of outlined the history. I said, hey, this is what happened to our family. Ashlyn was in this terrible car accident, and these were her injuries, and these are the things that she's trying to overcome, and these are the worries and concerns I have as a parent. And her teacher was so appreciative of that. She thanked me for letting her know all of that information because Ashlyn's teacher is with her almost more time now than I am because she's at school so many hours per day, 5 days a week. And communication is so key when it comes to TBI kids in school. So after the accident, we were wholly surrounded by our community of friends and family and church members. The outpouring of support we received was tremendous. And I feel like at a time when I could have felt very alone, I never did. Not once, because I get emotional. We had so much help, and I'm very, very grateful for that. The people in our lives who loved us and helped us through that really helped us hold on to hope through a time when we had so many unanswered questions. I can tell when I'm getting stressed as a parent, when my patience runs thin, when exhaustion sets in. I think that self-care is very important, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't be the parent or the spouse that you need to be. You can't take care of your family to your best ability if you're not giving yourself some kindness and grace and time as well. So my husband and I definitely take turns getting our time while the other one watches the kids. I like to spend time out in the wilderness and connect with God and do anything that doesn't feel like work. So that's kind of what we call a true break. Just do whatever doesn't feel like work. Do what feeds your soul. I love to be with people. I'm very social. I'm an extrovert. So if I can get together with my adult girlfriends and have adult conversations, that's great. That feels like a good, restful break to me. Exercise is hit or miss for me in terms of self-care. I feel like it comes in waves. There are times in my life when I feel like I have more ability to do that, more time to do that. And then there's times when our family life gets busy and I sort of let that go. I feel like as a whole, our family tries to eat healthy, for sure. I think that's especially important after a brain injury, that Ashlyn is getting all of the nutrition that she needs. And us as parents, we're expected to care for her and our other two children. And if we don't get the nutrition we need, we're not doing that to the best of our ability either. In terms of relaxation strategies, I would say I like to meditate. I like to be in the quiet, do yoga. I would say now, 2.5 years after the accident, the most stressful thing for me, thinking about her as my daughter, thinking about parenting her, is wondering if she'll be successful academically, because she just entered kindergarten and we're at the beginning stages of knowing what has been affected cognitively and in terms of her learning abilities. So I've thought about that a lot. I hope that school is not overly difficult for her. I know that it's possible that it will be, given what happened to her. I know that my husband and I have been and will continue to be very huge advocates for her, and will stay in communication with her teachers and make sure that her learning environment is optimal. So although that is a point of stress for me as a parent to think about that, I know that my husband and I are a great team, and I know that we're working with a great team at the school. So that alleviates some of that stress. So Ashlyn has also some social behavior issues. She doesn't seem to always know the appropriate way to communicate with her peers. We've had to sort of teach her greetings even. When you see someone and you want to play, you say hello and you introduce yourself and you ask their name. Or when you're leaving, you say goodbye, have a nice day, or something along those lines. She didn't seem to really grasp those very simple social behaviors. I feel like she also struggles sometimes to pick up on social cues from her peers or friends that she's playing with. So we've really had to walk her through it. And in talking with her teachers in preschool and now in kindergarten, they too are walking her through that process of learning how to relate to other kids or even to adults. Ashlyn definitely doesn't have as many friends as her brother, and she's, in the last month or two, starting to realize it. So she's in kindergarten now, and I think she understands now, hey, I don't have a lot of girlfriends the way that my brother over here has a lot of guy friends in the neighborhood who he plays with. So we noticed her concern, and we have started being proactive, my husband and I, about helping her develop those close friendships because we can tell she wants it. So we've been reaching out to other parents and planning play dates and getting her involved with other kids outside of the school setting. We're 2.5 years post-injury right now, post-accident, and I would say that in the first 1.5 years, I definitely communicated with most everyone we encountered and that I knew she'd be spending time with or developing friendships with in terms of their kids. I definitely communicated what happened to her and what her challenges are. And I think that mostly stemmed from a point of safety concern because directly post-accident, post-brain injury, we had to protect her so much more. She could not fall and bump her head. So there was more communication then, there's less communication now, I would say. I do communicate to other parents or other adults, you know, these are things that we need to be careful of with Ashlyn because of what happened and because she has this brain injury. But I'd say the more time goes on, there's definitely less communication happening. I feel like it's important with TBI kids to not treat them so differently that they feel not capable of things, that they feel different from their peers or their siblings. I feel like if you can, as a parent, treat them as normally as possible and give them as many opportunities as other children or other siblings as you can, they will be more successful and they will be more confident. I feel like that has been a key in my husband and I parenting Ashlyn. We want her to have the confidence to know that you are okay and that you can do whatever you want to do. So, sorry, I'm getting emotional because I had a conversation with Ashlyn. This was about, I'd say 9 months after her injury. There was a boy in our neighborhood who was hit by a car and he ended up with a brain injury as well. He was at the same hospital that Ashlyn went to. And my kids were hearing about this incident from other people in the neighborhood because it happened really close by our home. And we had a conversation about it, and that was the first time that Ashlyn and her brother Noah, who were both in the car in the accident, started opening up to me about their experience and asking me a lot of questions about what happened. And so the three of us just sat on the couch and I welcomed their questions and we talked about it, and Ashlyn was asking what happened to her in the hospital and what did the doctors do to her. And at one point in the conversation, she looked at me and she said, "When I left the hospital, was I okay? Am I okay now?" And for a split second, all of these answers were running through my mind, things that I could say to that. But I stopped myself and I realized that in that moment, my answer to her was so important. My answer to her would lay out her future in a way and make her realize what she was capable of or not capable of. So I just looked at her and I said, "Yes, you are okay. You are so okay. And you can do anything you want. You can do anything." And so I feel like that was just a turning point, a really key moment for her. And I'm really glad that I realized that in the moment, and I didn't say anything that would have been detrimental to her thinking about herself. I said something to her that was empowering so that she can be successful in the future and she truly can do anything she puts her mind to. Ashlyn's doing amazing. Ashlyn's a walking miracle. Honestly, I don't know how she's doing so well. I wasn't there when the accident happened, but from everything I was told about what happened. It doesn't really make any sense how she's alive, how she's doing so well. We're very grateful. What I love about Ashlyn, she's fierce. Ashlyn is very strong. She's a strong little girl. She knows what she wants. She's very opinionated. She's also very sweet. She's very kind. She's a go-getter. When she sees something she wants to accomplish or something she wants to do, it's going to happen, whether you like it or not. You know, I asked my mother if I was like that when I was young, and she said maybe not quite that much, a little bit, but yeah, Ashlyn's definitely her own unique, special person.